Hi team, it's Mrs. Clapp again. This time I'm going to be reading chapter 21. I thought I'd wake up feeling relieved the next morning, like a weight had been taken off my shoulders because of the action I'd finally taken. But it didn't start out that way, and I wondered while I poked at the scrambled eggs Mom had made whether it was something I just had to get used to first, like a new haircut. It was still really hot too. Just stepping outside the door was like walking into an oven. I put some ice chips in Tilly's water bowl and fooled around on the computer some, but I didn't exactly race to the phone to tell Mrs. D'Angelo I was home and ready to go back to work. Mom seemed glad to have me around. "Why don't you rest up for a couple of days?" she suggested, pausing on her way out the door to work one morning. "And fold that laundry for me, would you?" I did. I folded the laundry, and I took a whole week off. But I didn't do anything with the time. Sat around the house mainly, watching television and playing solitaire on the computer. I could tell my father was getting pretty frustrated because every evening he'd come in after being on the water all day and ask me what I did, to which I had to say, "Not much," which for some reason prompted my mother to start asking about JT and Digger. It was getting to be a vicious cycle, so I finally did call Mrs. D'Angelo, and I went back to work. Mom stopped asking about JT and Digger, and Dad didn't have to quiz me on what I did all day. Still, things weren't getting a whole lot better. I don't know. I kept waiting, but I wasn't getting used to the decision I'd made. It didn't feel right. 4th of July came, and with it Mr. D'Angelo. I was surprised when I saw his Porsche in the driveway. While I was getting the mower ready, he came out to the garage and shook my hand, but I didn't think he had his heart in it. And although I can't be sure of this, I had the eerie feeling he was watching me all day. I could barely wait to leave at noon when Mrs. D'Angelo came out to pay me. Her eyes glistened, like she'd been crying, and all the way home on my bike, I wondered if Mr. D'Angelo suspected me of something. Paranoid. I think that's the word for how I was feeling. Both of my parents worked on 4th of July, so I was the first one home. Alone in the house with Tilly, I practically jumped when the telephone rang. I didn't want to talk to anyone, so I let the answering machine pick up the call, and from 2 rooms away, I could hear the distinct gravelly voice of Tink Bosley, head of the local watermen's group. "Tom, just so you know, there's a meeting next Tuesday, Howard's Dock. We're organizing a protest of them new crab regulations. I told Dee earlier, but we changed the time. 6 instead of 5. See y'all there. Thanks." I wondered what the waterman had planned, and what Dad thought of this, but there was way too much else on my mind, and I couldn't focus on it. At the picnic that evening, my father won the anchor throwing contest, his 4th year in a row. Mom soaked up compliments about her blueberry pies, and I stuffed myself on all the good food laid out. But none of my friends showed up. It was strange being at Rock Hall Marina, given all that had happened there almost 3 months ago. I avoided the dock area where I'd been in. As soon as the fireworks were over, we headed home. In the kitchen, Dad picked up a note from the table, frowned, and rubbed the back of his neck while he read it. "Oh, I forgot to tell you about that earlier," Mum said as she padded into the kitchen, already changed into a nightgown and slippers. She opened the cupboard and reached for an empty glass. Tink said the meeting was important. Everybody's got to be there. Dad groaned, oh, and Mum glanced at him as she filled her glass with water. I don't think you have a choice, Tom, my mother said. It's America, Dad told her. You always have a choice. Mom widened her eyes. Thomas Parks, she exclaimed. And my mom hardly ever raises her voice at either one of us. They'll make your life miserable if you don't go along with that protest. Dad tossed the note back on the table and seemed resigned. I know. The next morning, before she left for work, Mum asked me to help her plant 2 purple coneflowers someone had given her at the nursing home. It was another hot day with no sign of rain. Cicadas hummed insistently in the trees, and the soil was dry as dust. While I dug 2 small holes with the trowel, Mom asked me how Mrs. D'Angelo was doing. Well, her husband's back. No, that's wonderful, Mum reacted. Why didn't you tell me? Gina must be thrilled. I don't know about that, I said. She didn't seem all that happy yesterday. Why not? Mum asked. I shrugged. I don't know. Maybe he still blames her for what happened. Mom shook her head. All I can say is that I'm glad you're over there helping them, Brady. Gina's so sweet, and with a baby coming, I'm sure she appreciates your help. Gently, I settled the first coneflower in the earth and packed the powdery dirt in around the roots. Mom handed me the other flower to plant. Yeah, but I can't keep working for them, I said. Mom leaned forward, trying to see my face. Why not, Brady? Did something happen? No, I told her. A big lie. An enormous lie. Plus, I was discovering that I couldn't look my own mother in the eye any more either. I finished patting the dirt down with my fingers, and while Mom watered the plants, I stood up, wiping my hands off on my jeans. I just don't want to be there anymore. I shouldn't have walked away so abruptly after I said that, but I did. Just up and left. Went inside to my room. And I was thinking the whole time that even if I changed my mind about keeping this whole thing quiet and told the truth, to whom would I tell it? My parents? The D'Angelos? The police? Would it be my word against JT's and Digger's? I mean, how could I prove it now I'd gotten rid of the drill? Sitting at my desk, I picked up the old Orioles hat, the one I didn't wear anymore because of Ben, and turned it in my hands. I thought of the red kayak, how I'd seen it sunk on the bottom of the river, and stared at the wall in front of me for, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes. I knew I was teetering on some sort of edge. My wallet was on the desk in front of me. I put down the hat and opened up the wallet, then reached behind the hidden $10 bill for the picture of Amanda. Unfolding it, I gazed at her smiling little face. If you were here, what would you say? I asked my sister. I know you'd only be 7 years old, Amanda, but you'd be smart, like your cousin Emily. You'd have an idea. I know you would. Sitting there, holding Amanda's picture, I heard a snuffling noise behind me and swung around. Mom stood in the doorway, a hand to her mouth. It was obvious she'd been listening. I braced myself for her to fall apart, But the amazing thing is, she didn't. Quietly, she walked in, feeling for the end of my bed to sit on because she didn't want to take her eyes off the picture in my hand. Auntie Janet gave me this, I quickly explained, when I was up there visiting. Tears had cropped up in her eyes. I didn't know, Brady, that you ever wanted a picture. Sure I did, I managed to say before my own voice cracked. She's the only sister I ever had. It's embarrassing for me to describe how we both caved in then and just had it out, crying and hugging each other. All of those years we had both missed Amanda so much, and yet we never said anything. It still hurts some when I get to thinking on it, but I try not to go there. So let me just say it with one tremendous relief to get it all out that day with my mother. It seems silly, I said to Mom at one point. She's been gone so long. No, no, not silly, Mum disagreed. We can't forget her. Can't forget her, Brady. She's part of who we are. She always will be. She said something else, too, about how she had to stop blaming herself for what happened to Amanda before she could cope with it and move forward. Then she paused. I knew it was hard for her to talk about Amanda. It was wrong for me to leave and not be here for you and Dad all those months, she said. I know how badly that must have hurt you, Brady. It did, I readily admitted, because I wanted her to know. I even told her how disappointed I was she and Dad didn't let me go to the funeral, and how I could never go back to the National Aquarium because that was where Carl took me the day they buried Amanda. Mom closed her eyes. I'm so sorry, Brady. It's okay, I told her. Man, I couldn't stand seeing my mom so sad. Hey, I see enough fish around here every day. I don't need to go to the aquarium. She started to smile a little. So I did too. Do me a favor? She asked in a small voice. What? Don't quit working for Gina yet. How could I say no to Mom after what we'd both been through? Good, she said. Then she took my hand. Now come with me, I want to show you something. Puzzled, I let her lead me into the living room, where she let go of my fingers and lifted the top of a crystal candy dish on the fireplace mantel. I knew there wasn't candy in the dish, but Mom reached inside and picked up a little gold key. Here, she said. I opened my hand and she placed the key in my palm. What's this? I asked. The key to the trunk up in the attic, she said. Amanda's trunk. There's a scrapbook in it, lots of pictures, some with you in them, some toys you might remember. Any time you feel the need, Brady, you can go up. You know where. The key is now. I stared at the key, then looked up at my mother. I loved my mum so much, I thought. It would just kill her to know what JT and Digger had done, and how it was all my idea. Thanks, I said, and I wrapped my arms around her so hard I thought I could never let go.